I saw the new Supergirl movie and it's bad. I would not recommend it. So let's talk about it. I also though want to preface this by saying I'm not some James Gunn hater that's preying on the downfall of this new DCU. I liked James Gunn's Superman movie. I thought it was pretty good. I was hoping the Supergirl movie was going to be good. I was hoping the trailers were wrong because they looked terrible, but sadly the trailers were representative of the movie. It's bad. This movie has no idea how to do anything. The writing's bad, the directing's bad. They don't know what to do with Supergirl. Supergirl is very unlikable. She's a horrible hero, and I mean that in just the fact that she's really bad at being Supergirl. If Supergirl wasn't so ass at being a superhero, this movie would be over in 5 minutes. Like they're not written well at extending the movie. There's so many moments where it's like, oh, if Supergirl was just good, this movie would be over right now. Like there's a moment where the villain has a little girl on a rooftop and Supergirl grabs the little girl, takes her down to the bottom, to the ground floor, leaves her there, and then goes back to find the villain. The villain's gone. The villain's actually just like 100 yards away and very easy to find. Supergirl has X-ray vision and super hearing. But Supergirl goes, "Where's the villain?" And then the villain slaughters a whole family. It's like, oh, I don't really like Supergirl. She's kind of an idiot and let that family die because she's so stupid and bad at being Supergirl. And stuff like that happens throughout the movie where it's like, man, if Supergirl were good at her job, this would be over right now. Like if you replace Supergirl with Superman, this movie would be over in 5 seconds. As you have seen in the trailer, Crypto gets poisoned by the main villain. And so that's what causes Supergirl to go after the villain because the villain has the antidote for Crypto. And we're told that Crypto has 3 days, otherwise he's gonna die. So she has to go and find the antidote from the main villain, and that's her cause, that's her driving force to go and find this guy and go after this guy. And she doesn't really have a lot of urgency there. It's like, 72 hours, that's a whole lot of time because she's at first on a red sun planet. Like we saw in Superman, she likes to go to party on red sun planets because she can get drunk since she doesn't have her powers. But she gets to a yellow sun planet, and then the first thing she does is go to like a space gas station and buy an icy and some snacks, and she's like chilling. And then later on in the movie, when she's talking to a character, when she's talking to this little girl, she's talking about how she's sorry that she's rushing and she's just like not patient. It's just like she's rushing because her dog's sick. But it's like we never really feel that urgency. Like we see her being sad about Crypto, but we never see that urgency. Like, I got my powers now. I'm going to try to track this guy and find him. It's like she's very nonchalant and like chill about it and just like, man, I'll find him eventually. Like she's not like hurrying or be like, I got my powers, I can easily find this guy now. It's very much just like, yeah, 72 hours. I got 3 days. That's nothing. It's like, man, you think she would be a little more gung ho about this, considering, the one thing from her planet that she loves, Crypto, is dying, but she's not. There's also this weird thing about so the little girl in the movie, this is very light spoilers. The lightest. This happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie, but if you don't want spoilers, then I would avoid this. But this is the lightest spoilers of all time. The little girl you see in the movie, her entire family is slaughtered in the first 5 minutes of the movie because the main villain wants some swords that her dad makes. Her dad's like a blacksmith, and he makes swords, so he wants the swords, and he ends up killing her entire family, but he leaves her, which later on doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyways, he leaves her alive. And so she wants to go and kill this guy. She's on a revenge quest because she's like, he slaughtered my entire family. I want to kill this guy. Supergirl, the entire movie's like, don't kill him. That won't bring you peace. Revenge won't do anything for you. You don't want that. And it's not really explained why Supergirl feels that way. Like because you'd think, oh, Supergirl must have gone through something similar. There must have been some experience where she wanted to get revenge on someone and she did, and then it didn't make her feel any better. But nope. She just has this conviction about this for no reason, other than throughout the rest of the movie, she doesn't really have strong morals about anything. But about this, she's like, I can't let this girl ruin her life by killing this guy. It's like, well, we see throughout this movie that this guy's a murdering rapist. So killing him would be a net good for the entire galaxy. And also it would make this girl feel better because he slaughtered her family. I don't see how this would be bad for this girl at all, like in any way. And there's nothing throughout the movie that makes you show why Supergirl feels this way. It's just something that the writers are like, heroes should be against killing, so that's why we're gonna have that in the movie. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I think that's a thread that's throughout the entire movie. It doesn't make sense. Now the best part of the movie is the 2 whole minutes that David Corenswet's Superman's in the movie, and that's because David Corenswet has such incredible screen presence as this Superman. He's so good. It doesn't even feel like I'm watching this actor play Superman. It feels like Superman left off the page and showed up on the Supergirl set one day and they filmed him. He is that good. Like when he's on there, like you relax. You're not like, man, I'm watching this dog shit movie. You're like, oh, Superman's here. And you're kind of like relaxed and you're just like watching, you're like, oh man, this is cool. I'm watching Superman. He's that good. Even this movie with terrible directing and terrible writing, when David Cornsweet Superman's on screen, you're like, yeah, that's Superman. He's so good. And that makes me sad because when the Paramount merger goes through and they see that James Gunn has doesn't have a great track record with this DCU, hopefully they don't scrap the cast. Hopefully, if they get rid of James Gunn, they're like, we'll keep this cast and we'll keep this going because Cornsweet is so good as Superman. I don't want to lose another Superman. I like Henry Cavill as Superman, and I can't believe they got a good replacement for him. So I don't want them to get rid of Cornsweet too. But also Lobo. Let's talk about Lobo because a lot of people praising him. Jason Momoa is good as Lobo, but he's also just like sporadically in this movie for a total like 10 minutes. He's just kind of there. I like Jason Momoa as Lobo. He does a good job. He's cool. It's one of the better parts of the movie. But he just, again, doesn't have a whole lot to do. He's there to hunt a bounty. That's part of the crew of this main bad guy. And there's some stuff in there with Lobo that doesn't make sense towards the end that I'll talk about later when I get into spoilers. I'll have it time stamped and I'll give a warning before I get into spoilers. But also, let's talk about the villain. The villain's terrible in this movie. There's not really any interesting motivation or anything. And I don't need villains to have the most complex motivations. I like evil villains that are just, they're evil and they like being evil. But they're like, there's just nothing with this guy. And the performance is terrible too. I don't know if I necessarily blame the actor. Maybe the direction was the reason his performance is so bad. I don't know. But the performance is terrible because this guy, every time he's on screen, he's just like, he's trying to be quirky and like he does some sort of Jack Sparrow type mannerisms, but it's not, it's terrible. Like he's like laughing and he's like doing these quirky, weird mannerisms. And it's like, that's not interesting at all. And nothing about this guy is intriguing or engaging or makes you like afraid of him or interested in him. He's a terrible comic book villain. I think that's basically it for non-spoilers. Spoiler warning, I'm getting into spoilers now. Let's talk about it. First off, I want to talk about Krypton because one of the biggest controversies from James Gunn's Superman movie was what he did to Jor-El and Laura, what he did to Superman's biological parents. People didn't like that he made them bad guys because turns out they sent Clark to Earth, or Kal-El to Earth, to basically be a god to these people, to rule over them, to have a harem, to continue on Krypton's legacy, and make more Kryptonians. And I didn't like that, but it wasn't the biggest gripe to me because I think the Kents are more important to who Superman is as a character than his birth parents. And I liked the rest of the movie, so it wasn't the biggest gripe to me. But it's like I could have done without that. I wish James Gunn wouldn't have done that, but it wasn't a huge deal breaker to me. But this movie makes it even worse because if you're hoping for a retcon of being like, oh, Brainiac tampered with the message before it got to Earth, that's not happening because we see in this that Kara wasn't actually born on Krypton. Krypton exploded, except her dad, Zor-El, put a force field around Argo City and launched it into space before Krypton exploded, so they were protected. But then everyone got kryptonite poisoning and died, other than Kara, because they sent her away before that happened to her. We see Zor-El mentions, like, I don't know why my brother is sending that little baby boy to go be a god to those people on Earth. It's like, oh, so Jor-El was just a maniac weirdo and everyone else on Krypton's pretty good? Because Zor-El tells his daughter to be a good person and protect those that can't protect themselves and help people. It's like, wait, what? So we're just making Jor-El and Laura just evil pieces of garbage? What? Because I was more fine with it. It was like, this is an alien race. They see things differently. They're much different than us humans. They are aliens, after all, from a far off planet. I can understand how they could be more cold and different, just be like, hey, you're better than them, so you should, take over and run things. Like, I thought that was just how Kryptonians would see this. But no, it turns out just Jor-El and Laura are lunatics, and there's a lot of good Kryptonians. Like, I don't like that. I think that makes what James Gunn did to Superman even worse now, his decision with Jor-El. Because it's like, he's in charge of this. He could have shot this down, but like, no, that's stupid. Kryptonians are all kind of maniacs. I would have preferred that. Instead of this was stupid. There's also a horrible line where Kara's sick mother is talking to her on essentially her deathbed. And she's like, Kara, promise me, you can be tough. You don't have to be nice, but be good. It's like, what does that even mean? What do you mean? It was just a horrible line. I was like, what is it? Who would ever tell their kid that, hey, you don't have to be nice. You don't have to be a nice person. You can be tough, but be good. That sounds like such a random, weird. It sounds like such a line written for a movie. It doesn't sound like something someone would say ever. It was just, it was so weird. I didn't care for that. And back to what I was alluding to with Lobo earlier, and with Kara being like, "Don't kill that person." So the little girl at the very end of the movie has the opportunity to kill the bad guy that slaughtered her family, and Kara's like, "No, don't do it. You'll regret it, and it will be bad. It won't bring you peace." So the little girl's like, "Fine, I won't do it." She walks off. And by walks off, I mean she's like 10 feet away. Like 500 yards away, Lobo is on top of a mountain watching all this happen for some reason. It doesn't make sense because Lobo was here to hunt a bounty. He got his bounty like 20 minutes early, and then he took off. He left. Like he was gone. But then he comes back to watch what unfolds for no reason because he's not like emotionally invested in any of this, and he was just here for his bounty. So I don't know why he's here to watch the climax of the movie. Doesn't make any sense other than like, I guess Jason Momoa stuck around on set that day, so we're like, maybe we'll throw him in here. But then Kara stabs the main bad guy repeatedly to death. It's like, why did she? And she says this is for crypto, so she gets revenge. And again, this girl's like 10 feet away. So it's like, this girl knows that Kara's just a complete liar, hypocrite. So, what? What? What happened? I don't really understand what was going on. Like, why was Kara so against killing and telling this girl to kill, but then she just kills her? And there's a lot of stuff in this movie that's just not explained. It doesn't make sense. For instance, Supergirl is lured to this planet that has a green and yellow sun. Green suns are bad for Kryptonians, and the main villain knows this. How he knows this, I don't know, because it's said throughout the movie that there's only 2 Kryptonians, Superman and Supergirl, and this guy talks about he's never encountered a Kryptonian before, but he says a couple times that he knew that a green sun's bad for Kryptonians. How do you know that? I don't know. Also, right around the final battle, he shoots Supergirl with some kryptonite arrows that he made, and he's talking about how he made them specifically for Kryptonians and that he's never fought a Kryptonian before. Like, how did he know about kryptonite or that it affected Kryptonians if he's never encountered a Kryptonian before and there's only 2 of them? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Supergirl has a spaceship. Never alluded to ever how she got that. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense because she was sent to Earth in a small little shuttle. So how did she ever get a spaceship? Never alluded to at all how that happened. I don't get that. Also, something that could have been interesting is like throughout the movie she spends a lot of money in space. Never said or alluded to or like implied how she ever made any money for how much she spends. There's even a part where she tells the little girl like, next one's on you. Like the little girl needs to spend money because she's been spending so much. It's like, that could have been a fun little thing to see. Like, this is how Kara's life is. Like, this is how she makes money. Because we see her partying a lot and drinking a bunch, but we never got like, this is her life. This is how she's making money in space. None of that. It also, when she was on Earth, they didn't really do a good job saying how much time she's on Earth because we see that she makes a lot of Earth pop culture references. She mentions Titanic. She mentions Squidward. We see that she's watching like the Maltese Falcon on a TV in her spaceship. And then when she's on Earth, for some reason, she acts like she's a kid from like the early 2000s or something. She got like an iPod Nano and like old school Star-Lord type, headphones. And she's like into old school stuff. And it's like, why is she into that? Like, she's from a future Kryptonian society and she came here during modern times. So you think she'd be more into the modern stuff. Not really said why, other than, hey, we're trying to do the Guardians of the Galaxy aesthetic. But I think that's basically all I have to say about Supergirl. It was bad. It's unfortunate this is the second movie in this DCU, and I just don't know what happens from here. I'm excited for Man of Tomorrow. I think that will be good, but this was a misstep, and this movie's not going to make any money because not only is it bad, not only do the general movie-going audience not care about Supergirl, it's sandwiched in between Toy Story 5 and Minions, which are both probably going to make $1 billion. So no one's going to go see this movie. So it's not looking good, but I'm hoping that we get more David Cornsweet Superman after Man of Tomorrow because he's great. But anyways, if you saw the movie, I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. What'd you think about it? Thank you so much for watching. I will see y'all later.
Hey, skinny boy, saucy boy, I be running to the bank. Yeah, you know I hit the gas in the whip full tank. Riding past the ocean while I'm listening to Frank.